Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this webinar provided by the European School Education Platform. During this webinar, you will get an insight on peer support activities. Our expert Laura is a former health education teacher and peer support instructor and works as a team building and interaction coach and trainer. So, before I give the floor to Laura, I would like to inform you that there is a course running on the European School Education Platform, for which we will provide you a link on the chat. And now, Laura, the floor is yours. You can start your presentation, please.
Thank you, and welcome on my behalf also. Just a second, I will start the presentation. Here it is. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, my name is Laura Jääskeläinen. I am a trainer and coach in group building and interaction. But I was a former teacher. I was teaching 13 years as a subject teacher in health education and biology and geography. And I'm so excited to be here with you today because my mission nowadays, I'm an entrepreneur, and my mission is to increase the well-being in schools and also in workplaces. But as a former teacher, of course, my main mission is to increase the well-being in schools. As I was teaching, I got very interested in the interaction between the students and how can I, as a teacher, try to build better well-being and better interaction, positive interaction, and cooperation, and learning in classroom. And I found out different things, and I tried out different things with my students and student groups, and I found many different methods to bring the well-being better. But I was also a peer support instructor, and that's why I'm here today talking about peer support. But they are kind of, we're kind of building the same thing as when we're kind of building the group as teacher and trying to build the well-being and with peer support. They're just kind of different ways of kind of trying to increase the same positive things in schools. But when I was trying to build doing group building as a teacher, I found out different methods. And for that, I also wrote a book about how a teacher can increase the well-being in the classroom. And the book is loosely translated as how to build well-functioning groups. Unfortunately, it's not in English yet. It's only in Finnish, but maybe in the near future, it will be also in English and maybe in your language as well, because I feel like this is so important to try and, build well-functioning groups and increase well-being in schools as a teacher as well, as in, of course, as well as in different methods. But today you are going to get information, ideas and tips on how to enhance school experience and well-being through peer support. So when students are increasing the well-being of other students. Of course, by leading of a teacher, of a peer support instructor. And I'm going to tell you how the peer support programs are like in Finland. Kind of examples of that, because there's different schools, of course, there's different programs in different schools, but that's very popular in Finnish schools to have a peer support program. But first, because we are talking about peer support, the support word is very important here. So let's brainstorm first. We're going to use the chat. And so the support word, I'm going to tell a little bit why we're doing this exercise, if you will, first. The support word is very important because we're all being supportive to one another. We have all gotten support from other people in some point of our lives. But what is support really? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. What kind of behavior is it? Or what kind of behavior can it be? What kind of action can support be? Like, what does it mean to be supportive? So put on the chat your ideas of support. Any ideas are welcome. Starting now. It can be even the smallest little gestures. Everything is good here. No wrong answers here.
We see some answers coming up, Laura. I see the lead by example, being together, conversation, taking care, asking help, repeating all the time. Nope, that's something else. Help classmates when they don't understand something or they have a question, being encouraging.
Good, that all sounds very good.
Offering mentoring and feedback to each other, saying a good word.
Very good. Just so you know, I don't see the chat myself. That's why Marilyn and Effie are helping me.
Having an open mind and listening to the other's needs, being supportive, to listen to the person and try to understand them and their situations, giving advice accordingly.
Very good.
Providing feedback, good feedback, meaning constructive feedback. So helping the other person to build or further develop their practices and their work. Yeah, all these are very relevant to what you're asking to hear, I think, Laura.
Yes, very good.
Kindness also in any form. And that's it.
Okay, very good. Well brainstormed. Like in the most smallest way, peer support can be just that, being supportive in everyday life. But the peer support students, it's good to train them first so that they know what they're doing and it's more thought of the program and the activities. I'll talk later a little bit of that as well. But very good. So in the smallest way, it can be just that, just in everyday life, being supportive towards each other. If you think about like what peer support really is, you can say it's a process in which students provide guidance and support to other students. And in this, like for example, in Finland, it can be with any age students, but in Finland, normally it's older students providing guidance and support for students for lower classes. We've figured that it's a little bit easier that way, but of course, there's many ways of implementing peer support. But it's also very good way, the peer support programs, very good way to just implement various positive activities in school. And it can be implemented in many ways. For example, just leading by example, the peer support students can show what it is to be mindful of others and how to take others in consideration. Helping the students to get to know each other. The peer support students can introduce the school to new students, asking lonely students to join in the activities. It can be about preventing bullying, organizing events, hosting lessons, for example, in soft skills, emotional skills or interaction skills. But it can also mean student-to-student mentoring, that we don't have that a lot in Finland, at least to my knowledge, but it can be that as well. And why this is important? It's because the acceptance of peers is very important for children and youth. So when the students get to know each other and the peer support students can help with that, the group, the classes feel safer and it's easier to concentrate in studying. That helps learning as well as well-being. And many times the students understand the struggles of other students better than the teachers. The students might remember very vividly what it was to be a lower class student and what the problems might have been. So they're very many times more knowledgeable what it is to be a student as a teacher, because of course there's an age gap there. We don't remember it as well anymore. And the peer support students can also kind of see the problems better than teachers, because they're there amongst the other students and they kind of can realize what the problems are and what we should address. And many times the students from the lower class or lower grades are kind of more willing to listen to the peer support students than they are to teachers. And the peer support students are kind of, filling in the age gap there and kind of being as kind of eyes and ears of the teachers, seeing what's going on and what we should address. So how to create an effective peer support program then? It's useful to define the needs and the values and the goals of the school. What are the needs that your school needs? That's a good, important question, because different schools might need different things. The values, for example, in Finland, the values of the programs are equality, volunteerism, joy, and action-based approach, confidentiality, appreciation of youth, and participation. And the goal is based on the needs, of course. What do we want to achieve with the program? I'm going to tell a little bit when I come to the Finnish models or programs. Later, I'll tell a little bit about our goals. The resource part is important as well. It is possible to implement peer support program with almost zero budget, and that's a good news. But also, there can be some costs or expenses coming from organizing events or from materials that are needed. And many schools include the expenses from peer support program in their overall budget. But you can also collect money made from bake sales or kiosk in teacher's lounge, or asking non-monetary support. For example, some stores might be very happy to sponsor in doing good in schools, or by connecting local organizations, parents associations, many different ways to collect some money or to cover expenses. And also in Finland, at least, many times, or at least sometimes, it can be possible to organize the peer support activities as an optional course or optional subject. So then it becomes a bit easier to meet the students and plan the activities and implement as well. The instructor is important as well, because somebody needs to plan the activities with the students, and also kind of see how they're working and kind of organize the whole thing. But of course, with the peer support students, it's good to give the peer support students the kind of room to work and get really involved in it. So it's not only about the teacher making decisions, but the students are there as well in an active part. And then it's important to define what models or what kind of programs the peer support activity is most suitable for your school. Do the peer support students work alone or as a group, or are they supporting the whole classes or individuals? And also, it's important to think what kind of students do we want as peer support students? Defining the desired qualities or requirements for peer support students. For example, in Finland, it's mostly being reliable, empathetic, willing to learn, wanting to do good. That's, of course, the most important thing. Being interested in developing the school environment, for example. And the peer support students need to be trained at least a little bit to implement the program. In the training, they can practice emotional and social skills, facilitating group formation or group building, all the skills that they need to implement the program. And with the students, you can plan the activity and let the students implement the activity after that. And also, it's good to get more people, more adults involved in the school to get the most of the program. Of course, it's good to start small and small activities, but then if you if everybody knows about the program in school, of course, it's more easy to implement it. And if we have everybody's support for the implementation and all the activities. At least in the training, but of course in all, when you're having a class, of course it's very important to build a safe and supportive learning environment. Here's a few examples how you can build that. And of course, with peer support students, when you're training them, it's very important to have a supporting environment for them to be supporting of others. So, sorry. Here now. So yeah, this can be created, for example, getting to know each other and creating psychological safety in the group that are maybe picked as to be peer support students. This means psychological safety means the feeling of safety, feeling safe with each other. And when you get to know each other, you create trust and you are more relaxed with each other. You feel togetherness and it's better. It's more easy to create team spirit as well. And team spirit is very important to. It's helping and supporting the peer support students to be supportive. This can be done, for example, different getting to know each other methods or interactional methods. For example, connecting and getting to know each other in pairs or with a partner. This is done by you can divide the group into pairs at random or partners at random, and then give them just an easy task, what they tell to each other. For example, tell your name, favorite food, and favorite animal, and they both tell it to each other as partners and as pairs. And after that, they are introducing their partner to the whole group, not themselves, but their partner. And it's a lot easier, it's safer to talk to one person at a time, and it's safer to introduce your partner than it is to introduce yourself to a big group who you don't know yet. So that's one way to getting to know people, but also in a safe way. Another way is of creating safety is strengthening self-knowledge as you're getting to know each other. This can be done by changing partners, just a small amount of talk with each partner, telling one thing about yourself, and then the partner changes, and then kind of getting to know the whole group one by one, just with a small conversation. And here, kind of in this method, the partner changes, and every time with a new partner, there's one question that the teacher says out loud, and they are supposed to answer that one question with one pair, and then the pair changes. For example, with one partner, the question can be, if you were a pet, what pet would you be? Or, and then the partner changes. If you were a meal, what kind of meal would you be? Just one word is enough. Or what kind of hobby? If you were a hobby, what kind of hobby you would be? If you were a piece of furniture, what kind of furniture would you be? So in this way, it's safe because it's not personal information. It's also kind of fun to kind of figure out what kind of furniture I would be. And fun, safe way to get to know each other, but also kind of think about yourself as well, kind of what qualities are there in me. And then it's also a good way of knowing because everyone has different qualities, different favorite things, different strengths, then we can realize that difference is actually an advantage, as it is being a peer support student as well, because there's different people, of course, amongst the peer support students. There are different strengths, and you can be a very good peer support student with very different qualities. If you really have the will to do good, that's of course the kind of the most important thing. If you want to be supportive towards each other. And of course, creating supportive environment means that being encourage the students, letting them be who they are, letting them participate at their level, not putting too much pressure on them, and just keeping it fun and light, even though we might talk about very kind of not that light subjects as bullying, for example. But the way of doing the program, it's nice that the peer support students are having fun at the same time as they're doing the kind of the doing good job as volunteers. So in Finland, the programs always support the objectives of the Finnish national core curriculum of basic education, and we have a great pleasure and fortune to have this non-governmental organization called Mannerheim League of Child Welfare, Mannerheimin Lastensuojeluliitto in Finnish. That's kind of behind the success of the peer support programs in Finland. They produce materials of peer support programs. They train peer support instructors. They train other teachers and students as well. And they update the quality recommendations of peer support programs regularly. So this, of course, helps us a lot in Finland. But this said, it's totally possible to create the very good peer support program in your school without Mannerheim League of Child Welfare as well. But in Finland, we're very active programs in 90% of schools. I'm going to show you a video next of how it is, the peer support programs, how it can be in Finland. So here it is. It's like 5 minutes long.
Moi, mä oon Maiju. Mä täytän nyt 9 päivän päästä 13 ja mä oon täällä Kulosaaren yläasteella 7E:llä. Mua jännitti vähän, kun ihmiset muuttuu kesän aikana, että millaiseksi ne on nyt muuttunut ja sitten uudet ihmiset, että miten niihin nyt tutustuu ja tuleeko niistä sitten kavereita.
Tonne, sitten käy nyt vasemmalle, niin se näkyy siinä.
Okei.
Meidän koulussa on hyvin aktiivista tukioppilastoimintaa. Meillä on 24 tukioppilasta, suurin piirtein 4 per uusi 7. luokka. Tukioppilasohjaajan ehkä semmoinen tärkein tehtävä on mahdollistaa se toiminta, mitä nuoret haluaa tehdä. Huolehtia tukioppilaiden omasta ryhmäytyksestä, mutta myös heille tarjottavasta koulutuksesta. Monesti nuoret haluaa ylläpitää koulun omia perinteitä, mutta myöskin luoda niitä uusia perinteitä. Tukioppilaat järjestävät erilaisia teemapäiviä, mutta myöskin kilpailuja, ja aivan erityisesti he vastaavat 7. luokkien ryhmäytyksestä.
No, opettajan ja sitten meidän rehtorin näkökulmasta tukioppilastoiminta on kehittynyt tosi paljon tässä viime vuosikymmeninä, että on koko ajan mennyt enemmän lähemmäs niitä oppilaan arjen tarpeita ja sitä oppilasnäkökulmaa. Tekee siitä kouluyhteisöstä sellaisen elävän. Koulu järjestää erilaisia tukipalveluita, mutta se oppilailta tuleva tuki, se on se arjen tuista ehkä tärkeänä, sellainen ennaltaehkäisevä muoto. Tukioppilastoiminta tuo väriä kouluyhteisöön. Meillä on paljon tapahtumia, paljon tilaisuuksia, joissa tukioppilaat näkyvät. Se ei kovin suuria resursseja koululta vaadi. Tarvitaan innokkaita tukioppilastoimintaa osallistujia ja niitähän riittää. Sen lisäksi tukioppilastoiminnan vetäjä ja sen jälkeen Mannerheimin lastensuojeluliiton koulutukset ja materiaali, niiden kautta saadaan apua ja toiminta pyörimään. Tukioppilastoiminta on yksinkertaisesti merkityksellistä sen takia, ettei kukaan jää yksin.
Mä oon saanut tässä paljon kokemusta. Saadaan tällainen paitakin, joka on ylpeys. Ja niin, tässä oppii tosi paljon. Tulee arvostaa tätä juttua.
Aina kun nuorten kanssa on tekemisen, suunnittelee yhdessä jotain. Näkee kuinka sieltä tulee ideoita ja tulee naurua ja hymyä ja innostusta ja loistavat silmät. Niin silloin ajattelet, että okei, että mä voisin olla kahvilla tuolla, mutta mä oon tässä ja kiva olla tässä. Tukioppilastoiminta kyllä mun mielestä mahtavasti murtaa sen käsityksen, että nuoret on laiskoja ja innostumattomia ja meillä ei ole tulevaisuutta, koska nuoret on tällaisia. Tukioppilaat nimenomaan osoittaa tämän kaiken harhaluuloksi.
Tämä yläaste muuttaa elämää. Me autetaan seiskoja kaikissa asioissa. Jos ne tarvitsee apua, jos niitä on kiusattu tai jotain, ne voi aina tulla meidän luo.
Tukioppilastoiminta pitää sisällään niin kuin hyvän ryhmähengen luomista, että me järjestetään kaikki retkiä ja teemapäiviä.
Kaikenlaista aktiviteettia aina vähän väliä koululla. Sitten meillä on pyjamapäivä, eli se tarkoittaa sitä, että kaikki pukeutuu pyjamiin ja tulee kouluun niissä asuissa.
We have this vappupäivä. Then we have to dress funny and then we get our donut, for example.
The main point is to help to create a good school atmosphere and that they would have good memories from their school time.
Kukaan ei periaatteessa joudu jäämään ryhmän ulkopuolelle.
Oli tosi hyvä päivä. Meillä oli kivoja tunteja ja sitten ryhmäytymisleikeissä tapasin pari uutta kivaa ihmistä ja porukka on ollut tosi mukavia. Niin tässä tulee varmaan tosi kiva lukuvuosi.
So there, the goals of peer sport, it said about the video, I mean, it said it's also about preventing drug and alcohol, kind of information about that and preventing kind of over alcohol use and that kind of stuff. It was before one of the goals, but nowadays it's more of the overall improving well-being, which of course prevents different problems, but also prevents how would I say it? overuse of alcohol, for example. If you're feeling good and your well-being is good. Promoting student participation means trying to get everybody in and feeling like they belong, like they would feel this is our school and no one gets left alone or left outside. Individual growth means for the peer support students practicing the courage to bring issues up, the problems up, and being a part of creating solutions and practicing social skills and taking responsibility, growing as a person during the program. Preventing problems in the school environment, bullying and loneliness are the main things that we're trying to prevent. Of course, the goals can be set to serve the needs of your school. They don't have to be the same as we have. But this is just as an example of what the peer support program can be. In elementary school, we have a little different programs for elementary school and middle school. And they can be implemented in many ways, of course. For example, it can be group to group implementation, kind of class to class, where the whole class can jointly be the peer support students of the lower class. But here it won't be kind of voluntary. Then it's like, for example, all the 5th grades are peer supporting, for example, 1st grade students. So it can, of course, then it's a bit different than the volunteer model. And then it can be student to student, of course, where older and younger students are kind of formed into pairs who work closely together. Many times this means, for example, during the class, helping during the class, and this could be kind of implemented as the group to group in the group to group model, where everybody has their own supporting students or their support and peer support students. It can be implemented as well as a small group to group implementation. This is kind of the volunteer system. In elementary school, it means that 5th graders start supporting the 1st graders. And small group to small group model or program means that the students starting their school are divided into small groups and assigned their own peer support group. The program usually lasts for 2 years, but in some schools the activity starts already between the preschoolers and 4th graders, and then the program lasts for 3 years. But the point is to kind of help the students, the smaller students, to start the school. And peer support activity in elementary school needs a little bit more guidance and monitoring compared to middle school, because of course the peer support students they're young and they're children themselves and still learning interaction skills. So the implementation can take place during class or during recess, when there's, adults and the instructor can be monitoring, but at least some teachers are monitoring the implementation. And then the peer support model in middle school, mostly the small group to group model is in use, the volunteer system or model. That means that they are kind of picked, they apply for being a peer support student, and if they're picked, they are selected, they get trained during 8th grade, and their most important job is to participate in helping the group building of the 7th graders, amongst other activities as well. The program lasts for 1 to 2 years, but sometimes more, because in some schools the peer support students are selected already on 7th grade, and the implementation starts on 8th grade when the supported class is still on 6th grade. So they can be already before middle school, kind of in their lives, and that's of course, makes it easier to start middle school if you already know your peer support students. In the middle school, peer support students have more autonomy in the implementation, but the instructor meets them regularly and knows what kind of activities taking place and when, but yeah, there's a little bit more room for the activities to take place, of course, because they're older, as in elementary school. Examples of what can it be, the activities. For example, organizing welcome party for new students and show them around the school, getting to know new peers, peer support students day, getting to know new school day, some kind of events to improve well-being and school experience. The book club is, to my knowledge, mostly in elementary schools, where peer support students can either help them read books or read books for them. And they can also, the peer support students can give welcome cards to the lower grade students with the picture and information about their peer support student and the school start date. That could happen even before the school starts. They can also host or assist or facilitate different things. For example, attending lessons for the lower class and helping them with studies. This mostly happens in elementary schools. And in middle schools, it's more common that they're actually hosting classes in developing soft skills and media skills and raising awareness of bullying, or assisting or hosting group building lessons. This can happen, of course, in elementary school or middle school. But the small things aren't just small things, they are very important. To set an everyday example of friendly behavior, promote a good and safe class environment, play a role in noticing and preventing or intervening in cases of bullying. Although, of course, the teachers, of course, are the ones that have the ultimate responsibility to intervene in bullying situations. But the peer support students can kind of detect it many times better than teachers. And they can host recess activities, leading games and activities during recess, and just eating together. Many times, for example, in elementary school, the peer support students just go and hang out, just be there for the smaller students. That's not a small thing, even if I wrote a small thing over there. That's a big thing. The role of instructor is important, of course. They are the ones who support and encourage the peer support students, plan the implementation with peer support students, and monitor the implementation. Here's one quote of a peer support student in a Finnish middle school. Our peer support instructor discusses with us. They're interested in how we're doing, and the instructor has ideas and asks us about our ideas. And of course, there can be more than one instructor. It's actually even better if there's at least a few instructors, so that it just makes it a bit easier, the whole implementation and planning as well. But it can be done by one adult as well. Now, you must be having a lot of thoughts going through your head right now. Maybe they're ideas of implementation, maybe they're thoughts of, oh my God, what about this and what about that thing? So let's put in the chat if you have thoughts about the challenges or opportunities. I'm thinking let's put first the challenges so that we know which ones are which. So any challenge you can come up with, like what about this thing? You can now put that. Let's put the challenging things first so we can end in a positive note. So what kind of challenges come up in your mind right now? You can put in the chat.
I see the first comment coming up already. Okay. Oh, actually, I see a lot of challenges coming up, and then I had
there
my
can
own
be
questions,
many, but I think they're all are possible to solve. That's what I want to press.
So I see as the first challenge, the challenge to find peer support students, to find supporters, and also to organize the curriculum and the school management in order to implement this type of programs, this type of strategies. So these are two comments coming up.
Well, I can right away say something like finding the students. If you kind of advertise that this is what we're doing and we're looking for this kind of students who will do this kind of implementation, you will be surprised how many students will want to join, because there's so many students who want to do good. And if you have kind of already thought about what the implementation can be, or what kind of students we want, and what kind of doing good there is going to be, meaning that the peer support students or who would like to apply, that if they know what it's kind of going to be, and if they know they're going to do good, I'm pretty sure you're going to find yourself a lot of enthusiastic students.
Or maybe it's important also to highlight that it's quite crucial to highlight the work of these students and like recognize their efforts, for instance, during school activities or in the website of the school. So providing this kind of recognition, this will definitely support and invite more students to join this team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And organizing the curriculum, in some schools, it's not a subject, but in some school it is a subject or optional subject. But if it's not a subject, it's, well, there's of course many things, and it's probably a bit different in elementary school than in middle school. But in middle school, for example, because I've been in middle school, I know better that section of schools. It can be done during recess, the kind of the planning part, but the training many times it happens many times the planning as well, when the teacher has how do you say it, a class that that I don't have any, if I don't have a class, there's like an hour for me for free. There's free hour for me. And the students, the peer support students, they are allowed to come and meet the instructor and plan the activities. So there has to be kind of room for them to operate and skip classes sometimes. But then again, they also have to be able to keep up with school. That's the most important thing. Of course, we don't want to. It's most important thing that they keep up with school. But many times it's okay for them to skip class and be planning the activities or implementing the activities, but at the same time keep up with school.
I see a very interesting question coming up in the chat.
Okay.
So giving such responsibility to the students is appreciated, and I think we recognize that. But the question is here how to handle situations where students, peer support students, provide wrong advice or like kind of help to another student. So how do the peer support instructor monitors this process and ensures that the right kind of advice is provided among students?
Well, the most important thing is in here is the training. The peer support students have to know kind of the limits and the boundaries of what their job is. They of course can't do anything. There has to be certain. They have to know, okay, these and these and these are the things that we're doing, and and the boundaries are these and these and these. And they also need to know that they are not responsible to, fixing the situation if somebody's bullying another student, but they can tell that to a teacher who can then intervene. Very, very good question. But to me, those situations are pretty rare. The peer support students, when they're trained well and they know what their tasks are, they are pretty clever to realize what is what is their tasks and what are actually a teacher's task.
Yeah, and it's also about trusting the
something.
students also. So as you said, it's about training the students, but trusting them at the same time as well. So that's quite crucial element of this process, right?
Yes, and that's why it's also crucial to select the peer support students well, so that you can trust them. At least in middle school, where they have more room to operate, it's crucial to know them actually, because when you train them, but to get to know them as well, so that you kind of you kind of start to see some kind of risks, you can already address them before anything happens. But there hasn't been that many like crucial mistakes. But of course, there middle school kids are even peer support students who are selected. Of course, they're still kids, and there can be mistakes made. But then it's addressed and it's handled, and to my experience, there hasn't been that many mishaps. But yeah, and the selecting and the training is very important.
And it's important also to note that the peer support students are not replacing other type of official services that should be visible and be included in the school environment. So it's just a mechanism to facilitate the building of this collaborative atmosphere, this supportive atmosphere at school level. So yeah, there are definitely, students are not taking on this burden of providing professional kind of advice. So that's very important to note. Also, I see a question about the if there is a need for a financial kind of support to make these peer support programs running.
Well, I had the list here. Just a second.
So if there is any budget needs to be considered and assigned to these specific activities. That's the question, actually.
Oh, can you say it again?
So the question is if there is a budget consideration to around this kind of programs, do the school need to allow a specific financial budget to run these activities? I'm not sure if I understand this question correctly myself. So if the participant can elaborate a bit in the chat, but this is how I get it. If there is any kind of budgetary related concern.
Yeah, well, in many schools, there is a budget for the peer support program. But if there isn't, then it can be implemented with smaller amount of money or with zero budget even. But many times there is a overall budget in the school that covers the expenses. But then if there isn't, I had a list here. In some schools, they can collect money made of bake sales, having a kiosk in the teacher's lounge, or asking non-monetary support, for example, from stores, or by connecting local organizations, parents associations, and so on.
Yeah. To do what with this kind of budget? To support the other type of activities, you mean?
Well, there can be like if they are organizing an event and they need some, I don't know, materials, balloons, even, I don't know.
Any typical kind of process.
Yeah. So, and then sometimes in Finnish schools they have, like in the video, they had a T-shirt. Many times, if the peer support students have their own T-shirts saying peer support students, and it kind of keeps them more together, and they kind of wear it with pride, and that many times, kind of is a good motivator. But it's not something you have to have.
That's linked maybe to one of the questions I have for you, Laura.
Yeah.
So there is some concern sometimes that peer support programs may reinforce existing power dynamics within schools. For instance, with certain students being designated as helpers and others being designated as needing help. So how can a school ensure that peer support programs are implemented in a way that does not reinforce this kind of stereotypes or exacerbate existing inequalities, and instead fosters a sense of community and collaboration among all students?
Again, I would say first selecting the peer support students and maybe even interviewing them. And many times you can see kind of pretty well what's the motivation of becoming peer support students. Is it like really wanting to help, or is it about getting power or something like that? So that's one thing. And if there is something like using wrong way of the kind of the power that they have, using it the wrong way, it can be possible to kind of that kind of person cannot be as peer support students.
So
of
it's a matter
course.
of selecting correctly. So the role
Yeah.
of the peer support instructor is quite important in this process. And
Yeah.
I want also to highlight again that there is a course running at this period. So if you want to learn more about how to select peer support students, how to actually develop this kind of programs at your school, feel free to join the free online course that started just yesterday on European School Education platform, and it focuses exactly on this topic because we are running a bit late on this webinar and I don't want to take longer. So yeah, I'll close up the section with the questions here, and I'll give you back the floor, Laura, to say any final words you may have.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to end with a positive note. The opportunities there are plenty of these. Of course, the challenges have to be addressed and they have to be thought about. But it's something that you can do in any schools. In any school, you can apply the peer support activities to the needs of students, and it can be small. The smaller it is, the less challenges, of course, there is as well. If it's very simple, then there's not that many challenges. So it's easy to start small. And you can use different models that suit your school's needs. And when you involve peer support students in the planning of activities, it mostly brings the best solutions. And just, again, start off small, because many times if you plan too big activities, it can be too kind of tiring for everyone. But if you start small and start up from there and then get more people involved, then it's easier. So yeah. I will say thank you for staying with me and stay with us in this webinar, and maybe we'll see each other later and go on and go on the course that we have, Unleashing Peer Support. So that's very good. So I'll say bye.
Many thanks, Laura. We have seen also very interesting comments related to the social learning theory on the course coming from the participants, and how this relates to the peer support program, and how the confidence of the students can be supported. So yeah, we have great ideas also being shared in comments in the chat. So many thanks to everyone for joining. Keep on learning if you want by joining this course. Many thanks again, Laura, for this presentation. I think it was very useful, and yeah, have a lovely evening, everyone, and see you online another time.
Everyone. Thank you so
everyone.
much.
One last thing from me. Please take 5 minutes to complete the survey, which I will post right now in the chat. It's a survey about this webinar, if you found it interesting, if you liked it, so that we can keep offering you more webinars. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for participating. See you in another webinar, in a future webinar, in a course of ours.